One Incorporated or their management.
The Carl Nelson Show.
Not sure what they're doing.
Is that your phone?
Stay with me.
I'm back to WL Radio. Jamie, you there?
Yes, I am. Right here. Thank you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank
JB,
you. Thank you.
There's a lot of talk about a possible recession coming on. In some of the big banks are predicting we're going to be in a recession by next year. Are there any financial movements we should be making now to mitigate the attack if it does happen?
No, I definitely think that the government needs to take full responsibility for the slowdown, since the government made full commitment to increasing interest rates so that it would create an economic slowdown. And it has indeed gotten the response that it created. The Federal Reserve said we're going to increase interest rates. We want to slow down the economy because we are afraid of inflation. And now we have both a slowing of the economy, and we still have inflation, extremely high inflation, meaning that the cost of things are still extremely high. Now, what can we do to protect ourselves? The sad part about it is that at the same time, wages have slowed down. So what we need to do is be proactive, which consistently, given the opportunity on your show, we have been proactive. Each time you've allowed me to share, we have talked about the importance of saving, the importance of investing. The stock market historically has been one of the best tools of outpacing inflation. So we have talked about the importance of participating in the plans, the pre-tax plans at work, and saving money through IRAs, through 401ks, through TSPs that a lot of your listeners have. And they do participate in because they call and they ask about it. And participating in those things give you the opportunities to save pre-tax. And when you're not just spending all of your after-tax money on consumer items that can dominate your money, the pre-tax savings allow you to keep up, not just keep up, but outpace the cost of things, because what we've seen that over time, the stock market is the best, or one of the best, at outpacing the cost of living, at outpacing inflation. And all we can do is look at the graphs that say that if you look at inflation, what has been best at outpacing inflation? Well, the stock market has been the best at it. So our community, unfortunately, isn't fully participating in the stock market. So in Afroeconomics, I do a lot of educating us on the importance of learning about how to fully participate in the stock market. And one of the smartest ways to do it is to do it through a retirement plan, because you're doing it pre-tax.
And when you say a retirement plan, which ones are you referring to, JB?
Most importantly, through your work retirement plans. Our community is very most likely, we're more likely than any other demographic to work for the government. Our largest employer is a government entity. So we're more likely to work for an employer that actually has a benefit program. So we'll work for a municipality or the federal government, and they both have both of them have work plans, but it's up to us to actually participate and to fully participate. So we have to take the sacrifice. But if we're at the work and we're in the work plan, are we getting the advice or getting the help that we need to make sure that we're in the stock portions? I've seen people work 30 years, and in the plan, it has options. And if you're in the options that are not appropriate for long-term growth, you're still not outpacing inflation, nor are you allowing yourself to build the nest egg that you need in order to feed yourself during retirement. And it's sad because it is a big problem, because if you're saving at a 2% return and someone else is saving at a 10% return over the long term, they can save half as much and still live better than you because they're outpacing inflation.
So, what age are we talking about? We should be having these discussions.
At the age that you start working, especially, we really talk a lot about buying these stock market books and really early in life and teaching your kids about the stock market. And I really don't think that that's the important part. I think the really important part of early in life education for our young people is discipline. The important part about investing is delayed gratification. It's not the investing that is the important part. Like, we think that because the investment and what you invest in is always changing. So teaching your child about how wonderful Tesla is totally irrelevant, because by the time they have enough money to invest, there's going to be something else that's the best investment. The best investment is changing all the time. The important part is the discipline. So when we're teaching them about the investment, we're teaching them to chase the dollar. When you're teaching them about character, discipline, delayed gratification, about building a business, what a business is, what building capital is, what the stock market really is, what building a business really is, why we have economy, what the economy is. That's what you really should be teaching young people about. The stock market exists because it's raising money for businesses, and you're investing in businesses and you're making money on stocks of businesses over the long term because those businesses grow and make money. You're buying and investing in their long-term earnings potential. You're investigating their long-term money-making potential, their management potential, their product potential, what they're going to do 10 years from now, what they're going to be 10 years, 20 years from now. And so we want to make sure our kids understand about new ideas, innovation, and those imagination and business development. That's what we really should be teaching our young people about, early on. Not this is, here's what a stock, here's a stock. We're skipping the point. We're skipping the point, and we're robbing them of being Elon Musk. That's what we need to be creating.
Hold that point right there.
Mhm.
How do we get them to be excited? How do we make it sound sexy for them to want to wrap their brain around it? Because I know when I was in my 20s, I wasn't thinking about stocks. So you think you're gonna make, you never think all the way down the road about owning even on the house or a home, or we think about owning a car was an accomplishment. And not every child has a parent like you who can sit them down and say, hey, you get your credit straight, you start saving money, this is what's going to happen. So how, for the people who are listening to us now and have children, young adults,
Mm-hmm.
How do they convey this message of what you're talking about so it will resonate with them?
Well, because the parent themselves isn't in love with the process. If you, the parent, is always looking for the easy way out, how in the world would your child be in love with the process? If you're just a worker bee and all you're looking for are dollars and all you're thinking about is a salary, then how in the world will your child be in love with the process of wealth development? Because wealth development is a process, and you have to fall in love with the process to truly be wealthy. That is the process. And when you look at Warren Buffett, when you look at the anybody that's truly wealthy, they fell in love with the process. When you look at Jeff Bezos, and he started in a garage. When you look at the man who started Microsoft, when you look at me, I started in a little teeny room in an office with a fax machine. I had to fall in love with the process. But somebody was in a notebook computer and a fax machine. But there's a whole bunch of people who don't like that process. They don't see the process. That it took 20 years for me to get to the point where, okay, now you have this membership. Now you have this book. Now you have, Afro economics. Now you have the opportunity for Carl Nelson. Now you have,
JB, hold that thought right there. We're going to take a short break. And I'll let you, that's a great point you made there. We've got to be falling in love with the process. You got to like it. So figuring out a way how to like to love money or making money. 800-450-7876. Like to speak to JB Bryan. We'll take your calls after this short break on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Tonight on TV1, what happens when love
He was probably like the perfect man.
turns fatal?
Can't see y'all. How you doing, Mr. Wynn? I'm sorry.
If I can't have you, nobody else
I'll
can.
get y'all comments up. How you doing, Weeda?
She was begging for her life.
This guy's really off his rocker.
Who could have committed such a horrific
That's
crime?
right.
She had to fight for her life.
Catch an all-new Fatal Attraction tonight at 9.
That's right.
Did you know that the Washington, D.C. area
Weeda.
is one of the nation's most exciting food destinations?
How you doing, Miss Go Lightly?
Local series, Signature Dish, host Seth Tillman searches the DMV
Whoa.
for one-of-a-kind dishes you just have to try tonight.
So when that would be sad.
Putting their own twist on the bold flavors and colors of West African cuisine. Signature Dish airs Mondays at 9 p.m. on
I couldn't even imagine.
8 p.m. on
But that's
WBT
true,
Metro, or
because I remember my parents
video app.
criticizing me for wanting to have a business. And then my mom would say, if you come up with one more idea, shut up, sit down. It's so true. Oh, thank you, Ms. Muhammad. You're so sweet. You're so sweet.
Our seniors have given us so much. Let's give something back.
This is Peter
Ooh,
Franchot. Join us at
you are
Franchot.com.
beautiful.
Paid for by Franco Anderson Walker from Maryland.
Yes,
Policy
indeed.
Friend and Treasurer.
This is
Good
Joe
job.
Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. I want to
Thank
speak to the
you.
dads who are being
Thank
denied
you.
access to their kids. Excluded
Falling
from
in
social
love
decisions
with the
are concerned with child
process.
support issues. In all of these cases, doing
That's
nothing
right.
is probably not a good strategy. The law has given you rights, but you have to assert them. If the challenge is the cost of an attorney, Cordell & Cordell offers a capped fee option. Give us a call.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Fairfax area attorneys, a partner men can count on. Office in Falls Church. CordellCordell.com.
Contestant bills in the district this afternoon. The second traffic is sponsored by the Maryland Department of Health. Marylanders 12 and older, make sure vax for the COVID-19 booster. Visit covidlink.maryland.gov for more information on booster eligibility. Brought to you by the Maryland Department of Health. Delays continue to build in the district, largely due to several new incidents. Disabled vehicles still blocking a left lane on 395 northbound. That is a disabled bus. As you're trying to make your way from Arlington into the district on the 14th Street Bridge, compounded delays for you. It's pretty much a parking lot from Washington Boulevard as you're making your way northbound on 395 and approaching the 14th Street Bridge. You'll definitely want to avoid that if at all possible. Also building jams in the 3rd Street Tunnel southbound at a cross for you from Massachusetts Avenue. Approaching the Southeast Southwest Freeway, also delays are building eastbound on the Southeast Southwest Freeway. Looks like a new accident before the 11th Street Bridge. It'll be sluggish from the 14th Street Bridge. You might want to avoid that as well. DC 295, stop and go pains for you with congestion north and south between the 11th Street Bridge and Brooklyn Avenue. I'm Sharon Galbraith, News Talk 1450 AM, WOL, where information is power.
The Carl Nelson Show, now available on iTunes.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. I guess it's financial advisor J.B. Bryan. If you'd like to speak to J.B., the number is 800-450-7876. Before we resume, J.B., are you online broadcasting so folks can see what you look like?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. On YouTube, Facebook, and also on LinkedIn as well. Yes, indeed. So go to and to just Google Afroeconomics or J.B. Bryan Afroeconomics, even Carl Nelson on Facebook. You'll see me.
Okay.
You'll see it.
All right,
Indeed.
great. Because the question I was asking you again about getting these young people excited about making money, because there's a portion of our community that feels like if you make money that you're a sellout.
Yes.
It's an honor to be poor and to be struggling, which is not true.
Yes.
So we got to figure out a way how to tell them it's okay to make money. The wealthy are not the wealthy are not your enemy.
Yes.
And you can be one of those too.
Yes.
You can own your own business. So, but you say you've got to fall in love with the process.
Yes. And one of your listeners just said to me, Kenneth, when too many parents criticize their children for wanting to accumulate wealth. And I thought about that. And I remember that happening to me by my parents, because both my father was a PhD and my mother worked at the university with my father. And my father ended up being a college president. And that it wasn't cool what I decided to do, to be an entrepreneur. And I think that is true. And I remember I kept having all these different ideas, and my mother would say, stop that, stop having all these ideas. And it would irritate her. And when Mr. Wynn said that, I really didn't think about that. She was thinking that I was just thinking about money all the time, because I really wasn't thinking about money. I was only thinking about ideas. And I think if there's a parent out there who is like that, who you just really want the child to focus on education, realize that it could be because, like, I have a lot of degrees, that it's that not that they don't appreciate education. It's just that your smart child could still be very interested in enterprise. And I really, really was. And that we have to really encourage our young people who have that desire and that creativity. And I wish that I had been supported in that area more. And I thank God that I really pushed it, but it almost brings tears to my eyes how much I was not helped. I never was supported in that area. And I really spent way too much time alone. Even as I really started the business, I was always alone. And it should not be that way. It was kind of like, okay, if you insist on being a stockbroker, if you insist on doing this and nobody else is doing it, you're just going to go out there and be, because you're going to struggle, and you're struggling, and look at you, you're struggling, then you're just going to have to get the beat down. Look at her. And it really was hard for a very long time. And it is very, very hard. If I were working for a majority firm, my life would be a lot easier. And it is very hard being a Black female too, who focuses on Black people in financial services. And that is sad. You know what I mean? And I'm an entrepreneur. But it's sad.
I was just going to say that we're glad that you chose this field.
Thank you.
Folks who want to talk to you already.
We have to, we have to encourage one another. You know what I mean? We really have to encourage one another. And there's someone out there that I hope that I'm telling you, whatever that dream is whatever it is. You want to be a musician. You want to be a dancer. You want to create a a electronic vehicle. I mean, think about it. Somebody wanted to make an electronic vehicle before Tesla, and they didn't because everybody kept saying, it's not going to be possible. And that's the sad part. Fight through that. Do it anyway. Do it.
That's right. As I mentioned, we got some folks who want to talk to you, JB. 800-450-7876. Craig's calling from the district. He's on line 2. Craig, you're on with JB Bryan.
First of all, peace and love, brother Cause. I'm a little bit excited right now because I get a second chance to talk to my hero, JD Bryan.
Love you,
Let me get this straight. Now, I am speaking to the JD Bryan, and I'm not.
That's right, Craig. Thank you. That's right.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, first of all, before I get a chance to tell you that you are my hero, I didn't get a chance to do it the last time because I got a little sidetracked because I was a little bit pissed off that the mayor of this city was not doing a basic universal income like most of the other major cities are doing to help the poor people get back on their feet. And what's wrong with doing it for 2 years? And I said, and I remember I mentioned to you that they could take some of that money and invest in something because you got 2 years to do it. Invest some of that money to help get yourself out of poverty.
Speak, Craig.
So, right. And now I noticed that you mentioned what's that? Elon Musk. He's a boogeyman right now. You're supposed to hate him right now. I mean, the far left, the liberals, they say you're supposed to hate this man right now. So you're supposed to hate him right now. But,
I don't hate anybody. Yeah.
There you go. But one thing I want to ask you before I get into why I call you my hero, I got a question I want to ask you. How much loss of access to capital do you think that Anacostia and east of the river missed out on every presidential election? Because I noticed that every time when the presidential elections start, that the DNC and the RNC, but I had to put a lot of blame on the DNC because they always try to claim they like black people. And when you notice that the business over in Northeast, in the predominantly white areas, you see the presidential candidates, the historical figures, they go in and they get all that money to the businesses over in Northwest. So why is it so hard for the business owners in Southeast to demand that, to the DNC, hey, if you want our votes, send some of that access to capital our way, or we will vote Republican. That's a way to get them to come out there. And it just breaks my heart because I remember when Barack Obama first ran, and I was looking at all that money that was being made over in Northwest, over in the white areas. I'm like, wait a minute, you got Anacostia Park. They could have done something out there to take care of all the people that was going to the National Mall to see this brother being sworn in. That could have been used to make money. Down to Anacostia could have been used to make money. But they pulled this stunt on people out there for many years. And also you got the...
Right. Craig, get to a question. We got some other folks want to talk to you.
Oh, okay.
You're rolling down the political alley now. We're talking
okay. Well, okay. That's why I got to talk fast. I know I called those to this. You're right. You got other calls. But that's the first thing I want to ask. What is your opinion on that?
I don't think that we will ever make a statement that we will switch political parties. That's why it never happens. Because we'll never present that threat. That's the sad part. They know we'll never switch. Correct?
Correct. I couldn't agree with you more.
That's it.
I got to talk real fast.
Okay.
I call Nelson this. Now, the reason why I called you my hero, and I didn't get a chance to tell you why, because I remember when you was railing on the black banks for not doing enough to help get access to capital to black people that do want to start their own business. You reminded me of an incident that happened to me I'd say about a couple of years ago. I went to a black bank. I'm not going to call them out because I know Carlin like us to do that. And I went in there with my intellectual properties. And this person, now I told my friend I didn't have any money. I went in there with my intellectual properties. But I figured out a way how to transform east of a river into a viable tourist attraction. And because if anybody can do that, because it's never been done before. And now this person claimed that she never seen anything like that before, but because I didn't have no capital, well, I can't help you. I said, oh, okay, well, thank you very much. So I did a little experiment. I went over to a white bank, got a very different response. And the guy told me up front, he said, well, look, I can't help you because you don't have any capital, but I do have a venture capitalist friend. Would you mind if I call him in to talk to you to look at your intellectual properties? And I said, well, sure, no problem. And he went in, and then it was just blowing their mind of what I came up with, I actually invented and was smart enough to copyright. And what happened was he wanted. Well, I'm not going to get into too much of that. It's just he wanted too much, and I didn't want to strike a deal that way because I knew what I was missing out on. But I did thank the fact that at least that they was willing to do this. But the black banks, for some reason, I'm like, do they understand what intellectual properties are?
No.
I was like, okay. Said, but the white guy, he picked up on it right away.
That's right.
So that kind of really rubbed me the wrong way.
I've run into it. Oh yeah, and I've run into it. I remember in Virginia, one of our hometown banks where my business started, and I went to the bank president and I said, we've got to get some investments in this bank. You've got to save this bank. He said, I don't want to do that. I said, well, your people are going to other banks to do investments. Let's partner because I do investments. You do banking. Just let me sit in here a couple of days. He said, no, they're out of business. I'm still here. It's ridiculous. But I'm still small. But they're completely gone. That is ridiculous. We have to figure this out. We have to become progressive and we have to learn to partner and we have to be forevision. It's ridiculous. We have to develop foresight and we have to learn to take chances or we're going to be left behind.
And you're absolutely right, because one of the problems is that every other ethnic groups, they team up.
Yep.
People for some reason have been brainwashed not to come
He
together.
said, I can't. He was so afraid. Yep.
I know you got a lot of people. I got one more thing to say, and then I'm going to get off the airways. How many poor black hidden figures that you're aware of in the District of Columbia?
I don't know as many as I should in the district, but I'm sure there's thousands.
How you know you're not speaking to one right now?
I know I am. I can hear, I can feel by your energy. I'm sure I am, Charles.
Take a short break.
But you're not hidden, man. You're not hidden.
450-7876.
Thank you.
On this conversation with JB
I thank God for you.
On FM 95.9 AM 14.
You're not hidden.
WOL, where information is power.
I feel you.
Shopping online is simple and easy with the One VIP Visa debit card. Get cash back rewards on all purchases and double rewards when you shop with our Black-owned business partners. Hassle-free and easy, just like it should be. Go to onevip.com and get your card today. The One VIP Visa prepaid card is issued by Stride Bank, N.A. member FDIC, pursuant to a license from Visa USA, Inc. Use of the One VIP card is subject to terms and conditions. Celebrate Black History 365 days a year. Let's salute past and present leaders and role models and continue to work together for a better future for African Americans as well as all Americans. This message courtesy of the Law Office of Karen Popanokaway, serving the area with quality and integrity for your legal needs and concentrating in elder law. Call 301-927-3145. 301-927-3145. Attorney Karen Popanokaway and her staff at Law Office of Karen Popanokaway are leaders and role models.
Celebrate Black History 365 days a year. Let's salute past and present leaders and role models for African Americans as well as all Americans.
Yo,
this
quiet.
message from Nikita, Nature Boy Floyd at Green Forever Landscaping, serving the DMV for over 34
Charles,
years
drop
with the right
science up in
equipment
here.
to get the job done on time. Visit bygreenforever.com or call for an estimate at 301-780-7500. 301-780-7500 is deployed and the staff at Green Forever are leaders and role models. America, home of the superheroes, the United States veteran, our families, our friends. However, many veterans need jobs. Please assist them if you can. Hire smart, hire a vet. This message is sponsored by Royalty Flowers, located at 5606 General Washington Drive in Alexandria, where service is more than just a word. It's what they do. So, for all your floral needs, call the ones quick to deliver. Dial 703-992-8842. Again, that's 703-992-8842. And remember, the memories of flowers given last forever. Thank you for listening.
Listen to the Carl Nelson Show on Alexa.
Well, thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is financial expert JB Bryan, and she's broadcasting across a lot of platforms on social media, so you can check her out, see what she looks like. We're talking about money, and before we left, I don't think Craig had a question about money. Craig was more political, so Craig, you keep listening, because Dr. Taylor's going to be here. He's going to answer all your questions about the Democrats having problems with black folks. Did you want to respond to anything that Craig said, JB, before I take another call for you?
He took my breath away. I tell you,
Okay.
when you take
All right.
a
Well, we keep moving then.
yeah.
800-450-7876. Weeda's calling from Georgia. She's on line 3. Weeda, you're on with JB Bryan.
Yes, good afternoon. Carl, JB. Carl, thanks for taking my call. JB, have a question for you.
Yes.
So in the class last Wednesday, you taught us extensively about bonds, and it was so way over many of our heads, may I say, that it left my head spinning. I got a question for you as it relates to bonds and ETFs that are associated with bonds. And the ETFs, or rather you can correct me if I'm wrong, you can't have a bond in your brokerage account per se, but you can have a ETF bond affiliated ETF. This is what I want to know.
Yeah,
when you have
well,
ETF,
first of all, you can have a bond in your brokerage account. It's just that some bonds can't be. So you're referring to those government inflation bonds cannot have to be held at the Treasury Direct, but you can have some bonds in a brokerage account. Okay.
Well, hold on a second, ladies. What's an ETF? Fill us in for the rest of us who don't know what that means.
Exchange traded fund. So they have created they're these inflation protected treasury inflation protected bonds have been created by the government, and they limit the amount that investors can have to just 10,000 per individual. So if you want to have more, then investors are like, what do we do? So now they've created exchange traded funds so that you can invest more in the exchange in the inflation protected bonds through ETFs. And they probably have mutual funds. But as an investment advisor, I use ETFs because they're a more efficient investment, meaning the fees are lower than mutual funds. So they, can work to the investor's advantage. So ETFs are exchange traded funds, and the acronym is ETF. They trade throughout the day versus a mutual fund is only sold at the end of the trade day. So it trades at 4:00 at the market close, where exchange traded funds. So if you want to buy it at 10:00, I can trade it for you. If you want to buy it at 12 or 2. So, but if you want to get rid of a mutual fund, you don't get out of it until the end of the trade day. So, that, and there's some other differences, but that's where the term exchange traded came from, because it trades like a stock. Paul.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So then, JB, the ETFs, typically are made up of like stock, maybe perhaps there may be a money market and then a percentage of cash that makes up just normal ETFs. Question is, in bond affiliated ETFs, and I can't think of a ticker, SPIX, maybe one of them. What are the holdings in those type of bonds, other than just the Treasury bond? Is there anything else that makes up that bond? That's the question.
Is there anything else that makes up the ETF? Is that you're asking?
Yes, that's what I'm asking, as it relates to the bond ETF.
And the ETF, you'll have a full description of what's in the ETF in the ETF details. So you get from your financial advisor all of the details of what's in the ETF upon the purchase or prior to your purchase of the ETF. And even for yourself, you could Google, and at least you'll be able to see the top 10, components of what you're about to purchase. And and if it is made up of the bond, it will, ETFs are not like mutual funds, typically they're representing a particular index. So it will, because they're not managed, they're not actively managed. Mutual funds are usually managed. So that's where the expenses come in. That's why the mutual funds have more expenses, because they're managed. So they might have bonds and stocks because there's managers there, where the ETFs will be in just all bonds, and they'll just represent a whole bunch of government bonds. So they don't have to be managed. They're just a whole bunch of government bonds that mature in 10 years, or a whole bunch of inflation protected bonds that mature at a particular date or a particular time or various dates. But it will have a particular goal in mind, or it changes all the time. But you'll investigate that at the time of your purchase. But the ETF is not going to be actively managed, so the expenses are lower. But you have a manager typically. So the manager is who you're purchasing it from, or you're just have an account and you're buying it on your own. So you have to investigate it on your own.
Okay. All right.
But we don't
Thank
want to
you.
get in too much detail, because it could be confused that I'm giving out advice. And as a licensed person, I should be very, very careful. So don't let this conversation, for anyone listening, suggest that I'm encouraging in any way for you to purchase an ETF or a mutual fund. That's the disclosure.
Thank you, Wita. 800-450-7876. Brother Muhammad is up next. He's calling from Washington, D.C. Brother Muhammad, he hung up. 800-450-7876. That's the number to call to get you in. And JB, we're talking about folks now with many of our people live paycheck to paycheck. So how can they get into this? How can they get into the game? What do they need to be doing? Because we talked about earlier at the start of the show about the fact that there's a possibility, a great possibility, I should say, of a recession next year. What can they be doing right now to help offset some of those some of the things that are probably going to hit them, the higher prices and all of that kind of stuff? Should they be making the major purchases now? If it's a home, if it's a car, it's a high-end item, or should they hold on until the bubble bursts? Your thoughts?
With inflation suggests that things are going to be more expensive down the road. So you would want to buy them now. But if you expect things to get cheaper, then you would have to delay it, that it would be cheaper later. But how would we know? How would we know? So in my opinion, my professional opinion, I believe that we should delay buying anything that we don't have to have right now. I believe that things are inflated. So, and because they are inflated, we have to hope that it will go down. That, like, if you have to get a car right now, then it has to be because it costs you so much to fix the car that it's better off for you than to buy it. Not, I wouldn't buy a car because of a want. It has to be that you need it, that it's a financial need. Don't focus on wants at this point. That we need to really be focusing on needs and to focus on financial security. The reality of it is, even though we don't know the person, that last year there were over 1 million people who could not pay their utility bill, and that their utilities were actually turned off. And they're so that's what, and they also, the reports say that it's like 2 out of every 5 people are not able to pay their monthly bills. So that they're actually having to go to credit cards in order to make ends meet at the end of each month.
Now, JB, is this right now or
Yeah, this is right now, for not being able to make ends meet. And I
So they're living beyond their means?
that we're living beyond our means, and it's impacting the lower income groups more, because the majority of the income for people with lower income is already going towards necessities. I had to research that for that I did for a news program
Because
that I had to
JB, I've seen
investigate.
reports about the rental market is just crazy. If folks who
Mm.
are renting, that they've been bombarded with high rent choices, and the housing market, people are trying to buy a home too. It's just totally off the chain. We understand if you can wait, you can probably sit out. But do you see housing prices coming down, or they're just going to level off? How do you see that?
And they're going up. Mortgages, even today, I saw a report today that mortgage prices are higher than ever, like, because interest rates are going higher.
Well, hold that thought right there. We come back too, because there's a program in Baltimore. They allow people to buy homes for $1. I want you to talk about that as well. Folks, you want to join this conversation, reach out to us. 800-450-7876 will get you in, and we'll take your calls after this quick break on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
This is reality radio.
The definition of distraction is something that prevents a person from giving their full attention to something else. Distractions have been used since the beginning of time to dilute the power of the masses in order to maintain control over their lives. Contrary to continuing gossip and reaction, the most important couple to the lives of all Americans, but particularly to the lives of Black folks in this country, is not actors Will and Jada, but in reality is Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his treasonous wife, Virginia. Clarence was the only justice. Let me say that again. Clarence was the only one on the Supreme Court to vote against releasing the Trump White House records to the Congressional Committee investigating the January 6th.
Just to tell us how you really feel.
Once those records were opened, it became evident that Clarence Thomas had cast his vote to protect his wife and ignored his responsibility to the voting populace of the USA.
How are you doing, Mr. Walt?
Virginia getting the same level of scrutiny and public discussion.
Thank you so much. It's a win.
Seem to have a never-ending abundance of. Why is there not an outcry from every walk of American life for the mandatory retirement or removal of a man whose tainted opinions can directly impact every one of our lives? The reality is we have been dangerously distracted because a personal slap only affects the parties involved, while a wrong
Assalamu alaikum, Ms. Muhammad.
can slap millions of us in the face, all at the same time.
This is reality radio with Kathy Hughes. What's your reality?
When kids need medical care, they will often face stressful and life-changing experiences. From complex treatments to long hospital stays, these special patients miss out on the things that most kids take for granted.
She told us,
let
David.
Kids be kids. That's where Starlight Children's Foundation comes in. Since 1982, Starlight Children's Foundation has transformed the in-hospital experience for more than 17 million seriously ill kids in 800 children's hospitals and facilities across the United States. Our state-of-the-art programs like Starlight Virtual Reality, Starlight Hospital Wear, and Starlight Gaming let kids just be kids, even for a few moments. Whether donning an action figure gown instead of standard hospital issue, or settling into gamer mode, if it brings a smile, a laugh, or just a break from their reality, it's happiness delivered. Learn more at starlight.org. That's starlight.org.
Oh, yeah.
The Carl Nelson Show now on our free mobile app.
And thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is JB Bryan. JB is a financial expert. You got questions about money, about savings, about the market, the 401ks, that kind of stuff. This lady you need to reach out to. You want to see her, just check in on all the social platforms. She's there broadcasting live. Before we get back to it, though, let me just remind you at the top of the hour and switch over to Dr. James Taylor, is a political scientist. He'll talk politics with Dr. Taylor. Seems the Democrats have a problem holding on to black voters. We're going to talk about that, black and the Hispanic voters as well. And later this week, you're going to hear from chematologist Tony Browder, just back from a trip to Egypt. Also, Griot Baba Lumumba will be with us, and Dr. Francis Quest Wilson's mentor, Neely Fuller Jr., will be here as well. So if you're in the DMV, keep your radio locked on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. All right, back to JB. So JB, before the break, we were talking about real estate and whether we should jump into the market. And I mentioned that somebody sent me a note about houses. And of course, they need to be rehabbed in Baltimore, selling for $1. The city, I guess, wants to get them off the distress rate and put them back on the tax rate so they can make some money with these buildings. If people take them and fix them up, they say they'll start paying taxes on them. Your thoughts on that? A good deal? $1 for a new house?
You know, I think that housing has actually been a big contributor to the demise of Black wealth. In many of the homes that we have been put in situations like that, we could not afford. And you put people who can't afford the house in the house with no savings, and they have a high foreclosure rate. They end up losing the home, and they end up losing their savings. So they get the house, they make the payment, and then so they get someone in it, and they get them to pay taxes, and they struggle and they struggle and they struggle, and they pay it for a year or two, and the city wins for a while, and they get it. But then the city gets the house back because they just have to give up. They give up, and the city gets it back. And who loses? The family, and they kick them out, and they get the house back, and then they give it to somebody else, and then they win for a while. I mean, and if we look at it statistically, and there's research that has been done on how it has really robbed us of wealth, because they're just putting these people in the house and not having any commitment to making sure that they stay in it. It's kind of like when you have these school loans and you get people a school loan, and then they get the school loan, but now you're ruining their credit because they can't pay the school loan, and then they don't have a job after they get out of school. And you have all of these college graduates with school loans, and they're living, and they have minimum wage jobs, and they have horrible credit. So it's ruined they have no wealth and horrible credit. So you have all of these Black college graduates with horrible credit. I mean, and we have the data to back it up. And the same with the homes. So so yes, I feel that they're going to do it. They're going to do it again, or investors are going to get it. But if they're going to do it and they're going to give it to our community, and I have done workshops for these programs, and I have said to them, why are you doing these where you're giving these with like $1,000 down, and you're not making sure that these people really can afford these homes? Like, how in the world do you feel that a person with only $1,000 in savings can really afford this house? That's all they have is $1,000. So what do they do when the refrigerator breaks? So what do they do when anything breaks? Like, what do they do? Like, you cannot afford a house with just $1,000, and they just gave that to you. They can't, and their credit is so bad. In some of the situations, their credit is so bad, they can't even get approved to get homeowners insurance. And that was with the past crisis, because then after that, they would stop using me. They wouldn't let me come and do the classes anymore, because they were like, this lady's dropping too much knowledge and actually trying to help people. That's not about the program. We need these people to get these homes. We do not need financial empowerment. But but this is interesting, Carl. Did you know that the 30-year mortgage is up over 5% now?
Wow. It was just 2 the other day. Or was it last year?
Yeah, it started the year at 3.29. Look, it
But you know what?
started the year at 3.29, but they were going around telling everybody too, because they were making you buy. They were making you buy. Like, everybody was telling everybody too, but you were buying a point, like, so they could tell you any kind of rate, but you're using your equity to get it.
But JB, the issue is though that the rates have been so low for so long. Most people forget that we're in 5. 10,
Yeah, you're right.
Years before. So even if 5 people aren't really, hey, well, he's double that.
You're right. You're
People
so
aren't
right.
really turned off yet. At what point? What's the tolerance level? Do you think that when people say, "All right, this is too much. These rates are too much. I can't afford this."
Well, there are a lot of people were actually being able to afford a house they really couldn't afford. Like they're not, their payment's going to be substantially bigger. Like that's, that could be $300 more. Like their debt ratio could fall out of whack from they're not, like they could miss their approval. There could have been someone, like, say they were waiting for their loan to get approved. They didn't lock in their interest rate. It went from 3 to 5, and they have a car loan. They were right there on the edge, and they have too much debt, or their school loan is about to start or something, and they better make sure it's because the loans are about to start again in August. So if their debt ratio is not quite right, that 5%, it could change a lot of approvals.
All right. One day we'll talk about the debt ratio, but we're racing the clock and we got some folks who want to talk to you. 800-450-7876 to speak to JB. Randy's calling from Baltimore. He's on line 2. Randy, you're on with JB.
Hello. Good evening.
Yes.
What I wanted to ask on speaking of what you were just talking about, but in another way, what do you think about the $50 billion that's being rushed to Ukraine to bail out white faces and slow Black Joe to the student loan, to relieving the student loan debt? Because if everything you're talking about is impossible on our young folks if that student loan debt is not squashed, because they cannot pay it.
Why you like you're trying to mess me up? Whoo.
You want to tackle that? Because we got some more folks want to talk to you.
Let's next. I think he said it all. He said it all. You said it all.
Answered his own question.
Yes, he did.
800-450-7876. Royal's calling from D.C. on line 3. Royal, you're on with JB Bryan.
Hi, Carl, and hi, JB.
How you doing?
I last called you guys. I was talking about they have this thing in D.C. called TOPA, Tenants Opportunity to Purchase Act, and how our landlord has switched their name to a LLC in hopes of trying to escape paying tenants to buy out their leases, which now in D.C. is going for like over $100,000. So I don't know if you remember that conversation, but I definitely wanted to call today when you said about how the city, especially Washington, D.C., how they will let you come in and try to buy a house. I think they have a program in D.C. I think it's called NACA. I mean, maybe that may be the one in Maryland, but in D.C. they have a program, and they will give the prospective buyer like $5,000 towards the purchase of a home, and they're supposed to send them to that counseling class, JB, that you were talking about. They're supposed to make them aware of the mortgage, how much their house they can afford, so on and so forth. So what ends up happening is that they have to take on at least 3 mortgages to pay for the house in D.C. One mortgage, the initial mortgage is for like maybe 12 months. Then the second mortgage kicks in after the 12 months, and then the other one kicks in 24 months. And I'm back to what you was just saying. How can you afford the house, especially in Washington, D.C.?
Exactly. Exactly.
And they think the $5,000 in D.C., that's nothing.
Exactly. They just want to get the house unempty. They want to get somebody in the house. They want to get somebody in the house just for a little bit.
Royal, let me ask you a question. Royal, is this for first-time home buyers, or is this for people?
It's a first-time home buyers program that, and they market it towards, believe it or not, Carl, they market it towards low-income people, especially, our people, in challenged neighborhoods, right? And they're supposed to, so they're supposed to send them to this class to teach them about their bills and about how much house they can buy. But what they don't tell them is that you're going to have 3 mortgages. So they're totally out there in the hinterland, and they're thinking, well, I went to this class. They said I can afford this house. And then what happens, JB, just like what you said, the house goes back to the city.
Exactly.
And then they put someone else in it again with the same circumstances.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say. Carl, thank you so much. JB, it's always a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up.
Right. And then we talk about gentrification, because I didn't know they saddled them with 3 mortgages. Because, a lot of people, they want, for most, aspire to have their own home. You want your own castle, at least.
And we get so excited about it. We get so excited about it.
And then you get in it, and as Royal mentioned, you're saddled with 3 mortgages, and all of a sudden you're upside down.
Easily.
So what advice do you have for people who are involved in that kind of stuff, JB? They're looking for a home, and Royal mentioned that a lot of these cities have these programs for first-time homeowners. What advice do you have for those?
It takes a lot of discipline. Like, it is possible to do. We can do absolutely anything. But what happens is once you get in, then you want furniture, then you want a car, then you want clothes, then you want hair, then you want this, then you want that. If you just get in and focus on your house, that's it. Then you can make it work. You can make it work, but it takes sacrifice. Like, it has to be that we're going to have to just do this for a while, and then you get your raise, and you can't, and then I'm going to go back to school, and then I'm going to get that, and then no, you cannot. You're going to have to work, and everybody in the house is going to have to work, and you're going to have to hustle, and you're going to have to make them payments, and you're going to have to dig in, and it can work. And that's what I had to do to build my business, and it's just not pretty. And you're going to have to sacrifice. It can happen, but it's just going to be no new cars and no new this and no new clothes and it's just going to be a hustle time. And it might take a 20-year grind. It just takes it. I've been working intensely for 27 years. I've been doing this. That's what it takes.
Well, that's all right there, JB. We got to take a short break. I'll let you finish your thought on the other
Yeah.
side. Folks, reach out to us, 800-450-7876. Speak to JB Bryan. We'll take your calls after this quick break on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
Delays the building on the Capitol Beltway very quickly. This check on traffic is sponsored by the Maryland Department of Health. The key to managing COVID is early detection and treatment. If you test positive for COVID, talk to a doctor right away to see if you're eligible for treatment. Brought to you by the Maryland Department of Health.
Thank you, Mr.
Topical phase
Johnson.
3 with interloop congestion from the Dulles Forward Interchange over the Legion Bridge.
Thank
Delays are
you.
building as you're making your way into Montgomery County, with often also traffic
Warmth off
through
of
Cab and John. Continuing on the interloop of slow going
it feels so
past
warm.
Connecticut Avenue. Also, volume building in P County on the interloop, often on congestion between the I-95 interchange, past the BW Parkway and Central Avenue. Outlook also, live volume picking up in Virginia as you're passing 66, and sluggish for you with jams in Alexandria. At the bottom of the beltway from the Eisenhower Avenue connector over the Wilson Bridge. Congestion continues in PG County on the outloop, traffic over Branch Avenue, approaching Pennsylvania Avenue, and inside the district, 3rd Street Tunnel at a cross. Southbound from New York Avenue, approach to the Southeast Southwest Freeway. I'm Karen Galbraith, News Talk 1450 AM, WOL, information is power.
RPG came through the belly of the aircraft. We don't talk about the female combat wounded. These are our daughters and our sisters and our mothers. Wounded Warrior Project came into my life and taught me how to stand back up and get back in the fight. The truth is, I think we all have this strength inside of us, but until you're tested, you just don't know it's there.
See how Wounded Warrior Project empowers women veterans like Beth by visiting woundedwarriorproject.org/empowerwomenvet.
WOL, Washington, D.C. W240DJ, Washington. 95.9 WMMJ, HD3, Bethesda. WKYS, HD3, Washington. WPRS, HD3, Waldorf, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com. The Carl Nelson Show. On 1450 and 95.9. Worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. Norman Taylor is speaking to Dr. James Taylor. Let's wrap up with J.B. Bryan. J.B. is a financial expert. J.B., I'll let you finish your thought, and then I'll got a question for you before we leave you.
I want to also share that over time, no matter where you start, like they might start and the interest rate might be too high and you might have 3 loans. If you get through that bad part, your value of the home will eventually grow, hopefully. And then you'll get to a point where you can refinance. And then you'll refinance just to get to one loan. See, when you refinance, you have to be smart. What happens is people refinance and they take cash out and they ruin it and they take their equity and blah, blah, blah. But if they have 3 loans and they duped you at the beginning, you can restructure. You refinance and you come down to one loan and you pay all those other ones off, because the value of the house has gone up. You have these loans have all gone away. Some of them got paid off. You only have one left or something like that. And you refinance it because interest rates went down. And you have this one lower. You have this one and your payments are down now. And you're older and you're looking good. And the next thing you know, you have your house paid off. And you move and and everything you went through is just a memory. But that takes discipline. And then you have equity, and all that you went through is a memory. But what can happen is that you get caught up in the materialism, and the 3 loans are used against you, and the additional things and the credit cards and the other stuff, and thinking that you have to have all the cars and the furniture and the big screen and all of the other things. So if you stay focused and consider getting involved in free things about financial empowerment like Afroeconomics and listening to Carl Nelson show, keeping your mind focused, you can get through anything. You can get through it.
Right. JB, they're talking about the jobs. The jobs by August, the jobs will be back to the pre-pandemic level. But all the people who wanted the jobs, now's the time to get that job. But does it come with an increase? Because we're dealing with inflation. Is this a good time to negotiate, or is it a good time to be looking for a better paying job?
Wages are down according to the report. Last week it said wages are down. So we're not getting paid. That was last year where people were getting paid to come back and we're making more money. No, you're not getting paid. People aren't getting paid. Minimum wage is still not a livable wage. This is ridiculous. I think people should consider starting their own businesses, and increasing your income has to be important to you. If you have a job with good benefits, start building an additional source of income. Make sure that you're thinking about doing things and selling things online, getting additional skills, training yourself, developing a skill set, taking yourself seriously and increasing your confidence in the things that you do, and developing yourself and increasing your income, asking for a raise. And don't accept this. Our community is not making a livable wage. Too many people are not getting paid. And I'm not just talking about the people who are hourly. I'm talking about people in salary jobs working for the government in our community who have been working at levels that you have been at way too many years. People in our community have accepted at that you should be doing step ups, and you're allowing them to leave you at levels for no reason. We have to stop accepting this. It is hurting us for generations to come that we are accepting this. And I've done it myself. We're settling. There's no more should we allow and undervalue ourselves. We are worthy of more. We can do this. Just go in there and ask for a raise. And then if you don't get it, ask, what do I need to do to get the raise, and update your resume and get a job, get another job.
With all these folks looking for a job, is this the right time to ask for a job? Because the job, your employer might say, well, take a hike. I can always get somebody who'll do it cheaper.
That would, if they feel that way, then you are at the wrong job anyway. But there's no way that they should be thinking that they can get someone cheaper than you if you have been at that job. It is impossible for them to replace you. What in the world have you been doing? It's impossible. No one can come in your job and they can do it cheap. They have to train them. If you've been doing that for years, they would have to. Do you know how long it would take them to train them to do what you do? What they will do is get you to teach them to do what you do. And you'll sit there and do it. You think about how many people you have taught to do what you do, and now they over you. They're getting paid more than you. Now they supervise you, but you're justifying it because you go, I don't want to do that anyway. I hear it too often. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Well, what do you want to do?
And then, so the bottom line, it's up to you. Either way we cut it. It's the decision is on you. It's on your plate. That's what you're telling us, right?
Yes. You know that if you don't want to make more money, then just stop spending more money. We cannot have both ways. You cannot say, I want to have these things. I mean, all you have to do is just not have these things, and then you won't have the credit card balance. But if you have a credit card balance, then you're saying that you want more things. Then that means you need to get a raise. You feel me on that, Carl?
Yeah.
That means you don't say that that means you want more.
I got a tweet question for you too, JB. A tweeter just tweeted and says, would you recommend buying a house for $1 in Baltimore if you can afford to fix it up and sell it? And the second part of the question is it true that a house can be lost for not paying an equity loan?
Oh yeah. If you have a lien on a house, you can lose that house. If there's an equity loan on that house can be taken from you. A house can be taken from you for anything, any type of lien on a house, that house can be taken from you. Definitely. But if Baltimore, that would be sad that if Baltimore just lets people buy homes for $1 and they're just going to be investment properties when there's homeless people. I would appreciate if the community itself puts money in those homes and takes people off the street and provides housing. That would be the appropriate thing to do. Why do you have to make money off everything? Why can't you provide housing for people? Just put people in the house. Hello, do you need a place to sleep tonight? Come in this house.
You know what? But how does that square with the homeless problem we have in this country?
That's what I'm saying. Why would we have it?
State to state, and they all think that they're the only ones with a homeless problem. And it's all across the country. Every city I talk to people, they said one of the biggest problems is the homeless. And we're talking about homes now in Baltimore. I'm sure Detroit was like that at one time. And they had the Chinese came in and started buying up the homes in Detroit and fixing them up. We'll probably see that may happen in Baltimore.
And then we sell them. And then we sell
Well,
them.
yeah. And then we sell them and move on and pocket the money, and then for the most part the money's gone. But how do we convince our people though to not to sell? Even
or our government.
Things like that, gentrification.
Yep. Our government to actually know that you should be providing housing, but yet you allow rich people to purchase homes and finance them for free because you allow people to buy homes and write off on their taxes the interest on the house. That is subsidized housing. That is subsidized housing. If you write the interest off on your house, you itemize your taxes and you write off the interest, you're subsidized housing. More money is written off on subsidized housing for interest for rich people and average people than for the projects. But yet people are supposed to feel bad for being in the projects. It's sick. It's sick.
Well, having said what you said all today, is education the key? Do you think if people had more savvy about finances, especially their personal finances, not just what the city and the state's doing, do you think that would help lift us out of this morass that we're in? We seem to be stuck. Many of us seem to be stuck, and then the homeless people too. Is this a way that we can get some movement here for folks who are living paycheck to paycheck to move up the socioeconomic ladder? Is it education?
No, because all people do, educated people just go and forget about it. Most educated people could care less about our discussion right here. They just don't care. It's sad. They could care less. The child income tax credit, I keep talking about it. It irritates me.
That's all right
They
there.
could
I'll
care
let you
less.
expound on that after the short break, right before we hear from
I'm sorry, Dr. Taylor.
800-450-7876. Speak to JB. Your call's next after the short break on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hughes, and I'm very happy to report that our strategy of Buy Black Tuesdays is beginning to work for the Black businesses in our radio market. Thank you to each and every one of you who's already participating, and each week making a conscious effort to spend some money with a Black-owned business, whether on the local or on the national level.
Stop.
Commitment and conscious awareness of the power of our spending will slowly but surely have an impact on the economic growth in our community. Now that you are doing conscious spending, how about encouraging your family and friends to join us? Because this can really work if we all participate. The recommended businesses for this week are
Breathe the SB Beauty Studio, breathethesb.com, Smokin' Pig, SmokingPigDC.com, and Tomar Trucking, 301-870-3927.
Thank you. Celebrate Black History 365 days a year. Let's salute past and present leaders and role models for African Americans, as well as all Americans.
This message courtesy of Will's Plumbing and Heating, serving the community with 40 years of experience. For all your plumbing and heating needs, call 202-409-8328, 202-409-8328. Again, that's 202-409-8328. Mr. Wills and the staff at Will's Plumbing and Heating are leaders and role models.
I think we're in a time loop. Because we get white hot ranch nacho fries every day at Taco Bell? Yeah, every day is the same. Watch this. Bite, yell, honk. We're living in a time loop.
Feast on the new white hot ranch nacho fries day after day. Grilled steak loaded on seasoned fries topped with warm nacho cheese sauce and the new white hot ranch.
Same bite, different day.
Here comes the bong sound. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only. Contact local store for prices, hours, and participation will vary.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom.
She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
The Carl Nelson Show, now available on iTunes.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. I guess it's J.B. Bryan. J.B. is a financial advisor. Dr. James Taylor, he's a black politics expert. He's on deck. We get to him in a moment. But J.B., I'm going to let you finish your thoughts.
I just want to, just to reiterate this so I could just hear us just go through the airwaves, that the mortgage interest deduction is one of the largest federal tax expenditures, and it has little to achieve the goal of expanding home ownership. The main reason is that the bulk of its benefits go to high-income households who generally could afford a house without the assistance. 77% of the benefit goes to homeowners with incomes above $100,000. We live in a world that cut the child income tax credit, while the mortgage interest deduction continues to exist. But the food insecurity, like the Congress knows that babies, they have the research right now, like they just have it right up to the minute. It said immediately when they stopped sending women and men the $300 immediately in December, that the people could not buy their food. They didn't care. They can't feed their babies right now in America. They don't care, but they still can write off the interest on their house. That's all I'm saying.
What's the answer, JB?
Huh?
What's the answer?
There's no answer. There's no answer. People are still going around voting for people who allow this to happen. How in the world can you just like vote for people who will stop feeding babies? And a earned income tax credit is not even like interest income. Like interest income is like earned income credit is giving you back something that you should not even have to pay in the first place. Where interest income is like your credit card interest, you should be paying anyway. But your earned income tax credit is like giving you your tax refund that you're going to give back to me anyway. Taxes that you're just giving back to me. But your interest income is like giving me a break on my credit card payment. That's just, there's a blatant difference in a luxury of your house interest and my earnings from work. Woo!
Right. JB, we got to run. But before we do so, tell us, folks, how they can get in touch with you.
JB at jbbryan.com. No T. 1-844 JB Bryan. 1-844-522-7926. Afroeconomics.com. AFROECONOMICS.com.
Hold that thought right there because Taylor's line just dropped. But so I got a tweet that says he's not rich and he says I care and I will help. But how do I get some return on my investment to buy again? You understand that question, JB?
Make sure you join Afroeconomics. I think that Afroeconomics has even a free membership, but I think that it gives you an opportunity to invest in a community of people where we support, you know what I mean? We support each other that and we're able to support, a movement, support Carl Nelson, support in anything. I want us to be some consumer advocates. If there's things that are in our community, we need to be united so that we can, make movements. When they were stopping the child tax credit, I saw on the front of the Washington Post, there were 6 little white kids out front of the Capitol. That's all there were. I want to be able to develop a movement that there can be, some Black people out front of the Capitol so that we can create a movement. And I'm working on that.
You know what? I was going to ask you too. Are you getting a lot of young people? Because the information and the advice that you provide us with here on this show, we never heard it from our parents, and it's not that our parents' fault. They just didn't know.
Yes.
They didn't know about even not getting credit and all that kind of stuff. How to do that? How to start a corporation.
Yes.
Our parents didn't know all of that
Yes.
stuff. We learn it, and now hopefully we can pass it on to our children. But my question, are you getting a lot of young people? Because that's where it starts. You mentioned Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and the world.
Not
How
enough.
they got started. They got a leg up because of their parents. I'd love to see our Black children get that kind of a leg up too. So again, the question is, are you seeing a lot of young people coming in?
Not enough. And it's very important because I started my business in my 20s. And that's why I started this organization. And that's why I created the free membership level, because I don't want any excuse, that they can say, well, I can't afford it, or I'm too young, or, no, in your 20s, like Steve Harvey says, don't waste your 20s. That is the time. You have to do this. You have to start it now. You have to get empowered now. Like, it's never too early. I mean, teens, get in, listen. But I think too often when young people kind of feel like they know it all, and that's the dangerous thing. When I was in my 20s, I was begging older people to help me, and they wouldn't. Now I run into young people who know more than me, like think they know more than me, and they don't. And that's so dangerous. If they would just listen, and let me help them, they can be so empowered. Just sometimes you just need to be in the presence. Like just be around. Just be around. It's and to be around anybody who's done something longer than you have gives you an advantage. I mean, I'm sure Kobe Bryant when he
We got to run.
okay, well, all right, but you
put your answer right. Listening is an art form that's lost on many, not just the young.
Yes.
But I thank you, and thank you for all the information you shared with us.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you, and thank you, Carl. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Taylor, welcome back to WOL Radio.
Thank you for having me back on the Carl Nelson Show, Carl. It's always good to be on your show.
Yes, Dr. Taylor, political science teacher at the University of San Francisco. Dr.